Is anything on?
We are on, but it's on, I've got us all muted.
Went to a school committee meeting the other day.
minutes ago. She'll be here. She's on her way.
We give her a couple minutes.
I practically don't.
Unless, is this gonna take an hour?
I don't think that it will. But if you really wanted to get in the weeds, I wanted to make sure we had enough time,
Sure.
but we should have. Plenty. We should have plenty.
Since we have a little bit of downtime here, I left a new shellfish ad in front of everybody's desk, I mean, seat. The, the one that was in your packet and the one that did get posted was based on a version of the ordinance that had a subsequent amendment. So this is the language that includes the previous amendment. And I talked to James about it, and he's just considers that kind of a Scrivener's error, so we should be fine going forward with
It's
this.
always soft on you.
I know, I love that about him. It's great. So anyway, the language that you have in front of you is is consistent with the updated ordinance, and I just thought it would be helpful for everyone to have that in front of them.
I was looking at this agenda thinking, boy, we really keep the blood on about this.
Right, yes, many thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
So we're okay with doing this. Will you remind me if we need to make any of this as I do?
Sure,
You know what I mean? Just to make sure that we're approving the right thing.
yes.
We wanna open session, go to close and then.
We'll open, yeah, but we're going.
All right, I'll need your-
Yeah, okay, bear with me for 1 sec. Okay, you may do that.
Calls me the Sherman Town Council of the Court. Based on the July 15th, 6:03. I have a motion to go into closed session to discuss the collective bargaining matter. Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no, guys have it when closed.
all.
And-
You have to submit every menu. And every menu has to be like assessed for its food quality. It's how many calories, how much salt, how much fat, how much, this, that, thing. And so, when they had Aramark and then they had, Jarvis, that's already done. Now. This year, the food was compared to other years, like up here. Compared to other years where I would put it like below my shin. Since Chartwell's is taken over, Chartwell's is disgusting, just revolting. You wouldn't feed it to your dog. But we got, Cecil, for who works at Kimberly's. Cecil was the chef. And he is, like, I feel like, I don't know, like, you ever see that food show where they give people a basket and they're surprised by the ingredients and then. Yeah, I feel like Cecil is the guy on that show. He gets the crap, the absolute revolting crap that Chartwell's gives him, and he made a meal out of it.
Yeah.
He's amazing. So.
My question would have been, what if, no contractor comes in for the fellow and wants to do it? There you go.
Well, they can't refuse. If they take the state contract, they can't refuse us. That's, are you kidding? They would have refused us for years now. But if.
Sounded good.
So am I right if, oh, Amy went under the table?
Amy's at the table.
Rubber sole shoes on.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, the other ones I think are under. They might be over. You're under mine?
Oh, let me get
Uh,
Yes. Maybe Karen actually is.
Except for, they all, there's one with a feeder. Under here, that they all connect. So they all connect into a feeder and go into there, so there's a feeder under. Yeah. Here, so.
Get out of there.
I was talking to somebody recently and I asked them how their puppy was. They said when got electrocuted because they said it bit into the junction box in our floor. We didn't realize like what a hazard that was, and she just opened up that junction box and it was terrible. And the terrible thing is she told me in front of her two little girls, and I was like, I was very much like, these things. I was like, my cat got run over by a car. But I was like, I mean, obviously, she knew she was saying it in front of her husband, but I was like, oh my god, this is like alarming.
That reminds me of Charlie and Heidi Webb. Yeah, drank out of a puddle and died.
Yes.
And Charlie basically got back on the road and went and
I just want you to know, like, the mics are gonna be live, so if you're saying anything, you don't know.
I'm talking to my dead cat. Oh, well, because I like to be, I like to great Naya. Chris got me a new black cat. The one that got run over was a black cat. He got me a new black cat.
Recently?
Oh, this was like a year and a half ago. So I just named him Guillermo. Sometimes we call him Guillermo Dose.
Yes,
But
that works.
I was like.
Yes, the cat doesn't.
But that's stuff, and I did, but I did, that's actually what I was telling them, I was like, because they do have an update. And I was like, yeah. So.
Amy, I can't hear you. You sound like you're underwater, Keith.
That's why it's in what it's
Millie, is that any better?
That one's good. Garbled, but better than Keith's.
What about, can Keith use the remote-y thing?
How about now?
That's good.
That one's
Bill, will you try yours? Yeah, it sounds crappy. Sounds pretty good. But try it again.
Here comes Chris.
Yeah,
After they came around.
any on the snow?
I'm picking up all sorts of garbled stuff, so
She asked her about doing.
Tristan's is better than yours.
How about this one, though? This one's been on, like, creating background.
Yeah, that one's fine, and that's where I've been getting all the background from. So why don't you turn that one off so we can probably try doing a little better test.
Tristan began 1, 2. Bills 1, 2, 3, 4. Bill.
It's not so bad. That's okay.
You see that happen.
How about the public?
Okay, maybe it's even better now that the background mic is off. Maybe that was garbling it. Keith, try your mic again, please.
He's so hard.
Yeah, Keith's yours is terrible.
Bill, you want more time? Bill's mine. Bill's free.
It's all right. Not great, but just keep it in front of keep it in front of your close to your face when you're speaking.
Billy, this is Keith on Lux. This is better.
Okay, that's a lot better than yours.
So we'll just take one out of rotation off all of our remarks.
Okay. Okay, good. Keep you'll have to remember to keep your mouth facing that mic, Keith. I know that's will be challenging.
Well, it's so nice. You've been on board for 6 years and still haven't figured that out.
One more time, Amy. I'm sorry.
That answered the question.
Yeah, right.
I was asking if you wanted to say those.
I'm having a hard time understanding you.
I can't get my arm through.
I feel like this Martian style outside is making me very anxious. Are you? I feel like my dog. My dog is at least to this on the way. Okay.
Sold from where?
Canada. It's important. You know, so I'm glad it's you too. I'm like, why? It's the only thing that can contribute to like my feeling of anxiety all day.
That's just gonna be your puzzle, like, go.
It's actually. We did that a number of years ago and then pulled the plug on the project. So that's.
I found the lapel mic in there. So I don't know if I have to use that, but the battery was missing.
That's all set. So basically, downstairs, it's a.
So recharge, yeah, so rechargeable,
When they get
I
downstairs.
could look and see if I. I don't know what it
That's
is.
in that upstairs.
Oh.
And it was on the floor, it's.
I feel like I saw this.
Nay, they was-
Yeah, it's a long two, yeah, two, so yeah.
They kind of, they think that also. Yeah. But it's really on one column. So it comes to all, that anyone looks in the phone. Gary? Oh, yes. Okay. I would just think, from Roscoe to Fonzo. Yeah. If you have, you have to, these are really nice guys. Gary Goldman, I'm gonna get. Yeah. Really, really. So you got that, but I'm not gonna be down. We do, we do. We do, so, that like that. He is so fundamental like that. It's gonna be this, incredible stories, I think. Incredible stories. It's so fun when like Gary's running around with a line. That's they all fall off. Yeah. And the graduated with aprons, that would you can. Wow. Yeah. And he comes over every day.
Who's that?
Doug Monk. Actually, does in the summer. Well, that's have a place in nonsense and.
Can you imagine having to rent the boat with all those people every day? So I had to go off overnight. It was a stupid thing, our main man car was over here, and I had to get over there and. I don't know, so I had to spend the night and come back. I couldn't believe the boat, I was like, I'm not, I lied to my whole family, they were all like, you're gonna come back at 8, right? I'm like, yeah, I'll be back at 8. It's like, maybe noon. I was like, maybe I'll be tourist over.
They got a secure parking fine.
Well, I went to the parking lot an hour and a half before the boat because but it was fun. That actually was no problem. It did work. That was
I was just
Yeah.
saying, Bill, I drove. Sort of a roundabout way, essentially to get here. That Wingfield's. Deck was 100% full. That, whatever that was, 550. Oh, right, it could be used.
It's been very cool with me.
Yeah.
Like when I drive by. But they have music and everything. It's nice.
Where do you park your name on car?
I pay out the nose.
Oh, you do that? Is it?
But see, then you don't have the anxiety. You're coming and going a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
if I were like you or Amy, I would park over there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's worth it for the peace of mind.
Yeah.
Mhm. But I mean, I don't know if it's worth it, but it's it's
Yeah.
good to it's good to have the peace of
What is
mind.
it now?
$1,300.
Holy crap, okay. But I mean, you divide that by 365 and you come up with like,
Whatever that would be.
yeah, something I can't do in my
I
head,
know.
but whatever. It's an expensive cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So that's it. I mean, it's,
Started as 500.
Yeah.
I know now.
but the stress is like, so like, even though I decided to take a later boat, I still got down there, like I said, about an hour and a half early in case I had to wait online. Like, I wish there was some way to know. You
Yeah,
know?
right.
I wish there was like some online.
Yeah, right, then you can say
online, like
Yeah.
camera or something.
Yeah,
where I could be
exactly,
like,
so you
"Oh,
could
there's
see."
nobody in line, I'm
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
In fact, I think.
Well, I'll see if, I mean, maybe there may even, I haven't like explored any of the other lots, but maybe, some of the new ones are behind the Dutch Inn where the Dutch Inn used to be. I wonder if they offer a seasonal, a year-round pricing.
Oh, yeah.
Reasonable.
right, like. It's owned by the same place that owns Champlain's. The Dutch Inn lot.
The lot behind the Dutch Inn lot. Yeah.
or at least it was,
Yeah.
when Elizabeth was there, it may not still be, but,
Oh,
so, but that front one has that dynamic pricing that is like, you know, tricky.
Mad. Yeah. Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it went from $800 to $1,300.
yeah, well, I'm saying their daily pricing.
Oh,
is
yeah,
dynamic
sometimes there's like
pricing.
$40 a day.
So like, I never, obviously living here in a cave, basically.
Yeah.
Until Grace lived in Boston, I had never had any exposure to that. I remember going to her apartment one time in the lot across the street. Even if you could have Penn Street parking was like
$50.
$30. So I was like, you know, come on. So I parked there the next time I went. And it was like 90. And I was like, I don't understand why is it so much? And the guy's like, oh, there was an event at the garden last night. And I'm like, he's like, it's people park.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. So then, like that, after that, I was like so much more careful about asking ahead of time.
Are we doing the meeting in the morning? Well, I mean,
Staff meeting?
yeah, staff. Okay. Too bad. It's busy. I'll work with, lights. Okay. I know we bought a bunch of new ones. I know there's a couple up there.
I know these are the new ones.
It's very strange. But maybe it's a connection that we haven't, that we're not aware of.
I noticed that this one did the planning board,
Mm.
which has the members. I don't know if say it's the members necessarily, but it is all female.
Mhm.
So they're in the driving system, and it's different, and so because our system does not allow them to like.
Yes. It's just locked out.
Yeah, it is typically in.
My husband's ears are
I
back.
was like, but then they've got to have somebody in charge. So like when I was in the kitchen, I wrote to Kelly Rosen.
But that's why it was helpful, it was actually helpful.
No, I suggested she.
Yeah, exactly. And he was just like,
The food. She didn't amend it.
Nothing.
She does. And now Cecil has to do that. He has to wash the trays, wash the dishes.
Yeah. He is.
No, it's. He also has to look when the kids.
Is your very longest one?
Almost. It was like he's really chaotic. One that, yes, I'm meeting in there, he's
yeah.
and I was like, well, you know, after this, the teachers that were there. And they were like, well, it's such a listen, and they're not necessarily, they're just a kitchen, they're a little school, for instance.
Yeah.
They've all kind of said that they're.
Exactly. No doubt about that.
So maybe you talk about, what are the pressure points for you? Would you, like, keep this guy, if we could get someone to clean the kitchen first? Would we be happier if you have a $200? You could just buy some extra.
Yeah. It's not gonna be jumping on any inflammatory at the beginning of the hearing.
Like, and they can't, but they can't.
Do you know the total? 700? Yeah, I'll take, I mean, if you like, if you if it's convenient for you, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll write it out now.
Yeah, sure, I'll save it for, I'll just be on my desk tomorrow.
Okay.
I will give you a receipt.
Going with Carol.
So.
It's like a $20,000 cost savings, but it's not about times.
Bring a pinball machine for Oh. When you get these things from Chris Morphle, and he always says, I've been sending stuff to the town council for 10 years. And he never learns.
I have to say, I actually wanna pull that one out, cause that's stuck in my craw. I have a lot to say about that. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
The shop collection one?
yes, but because, like, sure, it's a great idea, I'm all in favor of it. Do it.
Yeah.
Get a committee together, come to it, like, are you accepting me?
I know, that's one of your.
Is he expecting me? It's like, is he expecting you? It's like, who's he expecting?
You got a grant. It is oyster. I didn't remember where it was. Wait, was that this house? You remember this?
I don't remember where it was.
Yeah.
Was it a transfer station?
Was that at the? Was that a transfer? Yeah, that's right. It was-
They did do this for a little while, right? They put them in like, I remember they had like bags. I remember helping, we were down at the boat dock and we helped them load a boat full of them. And
Recycle.
it's a terrific idea.
For somebody to go execute.
Somebody should do that.
Yeah.
But I equate it to the composting. Like the composting is a great idea and somebody is doing it. And it's a lot of hours. So go for it.
Yeah, we switched over to the switch station. We also see one of those days.
So does this one work or this one just?
That should be,
Oh, okay. So is it just cute?
oh, that's mine.
Oh, so I have yours. Oh, but you got the done.
No, I have just had the old to.
Yeah. 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 Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's phenomenal. That's good, yeah. He can be great. Whatever you want us to. Yeah.
Somebody said, "Oh, play a lot of
So much. I talk about him all the time. He was great. Anybody else wondering like what they could be getting done if they were at home right now?
I hate to run out of time and then we're like making everybody wait outside.
So if we had it, if you had scheduled it for 6:30, we would have got 45 minutes of conversation.
Exactly. No doubt.
Murphy's Law closed sessions. All right, we're on seven.
Let's call it, go ahead.
Call this meeting in Sherman Bass back in order. You'll see on your agenda, we had a close, we had six. To review, what the front negotiations that are ongoing with the, police union plan, the one we're both taking, so there's nothing to repeat. I know the motion was seeking. Second, all those in favor, give us, aye. Opposed, no.
When we just wanted to ask about them. Microphones and you say, well, one.
Oh, thank you, yes. For people who are here, from particular people who are on YouTube, we've had a lot of microphone issues tonight. It's been bizarre, some work, some don't, so we're doing our best. Anybody in the audience can hear us, that's probably the best indicator of something. So we need to, reconvene our board of board of license commissioners, you think,
So moved.
Second, all those in favor, indicate by saying, we have two things we need to do here tonight. The first being, continuing the public hearing portion of this. I already scheduled a show cause hearing will be scheduled, I think in 2 weeks, no, roughly.
On the 29th
29th.
at noon. And the only one I hadn't heard back from was you, Molly. I'm sorry, yes, so the 29th at noon, please.
Correct. This is on the advice of our solicitors, so. Would like, if you don't mind, a motion to continue this public hearing to resume some date after the 29th.
The August 3rd, please.
August the. Motion
Make a motion to continue along the start.
to second. Those in favor, indicate by saying one.
Aye.
And then you didn't need a motion from us, to schedule the show cause, do you know? I don't think so. It's.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, great. Is there any public comment?
Yeah. Karen, would you like to speak on whether they should be making a motion to set the show cause hearing, or is that something we can do administratively?
I would say it doesn't matter, you could do it either way, but for purposes of the record, if you do have a date in mind, I think that I would suggest a motion to set a show cause hearing date, maybe for 2 weeks, with prior written formal notice to issue to the licensee.
Can I have a motion to set, show cause hearing for July 29th, please?
Second.
Is there a reason we're doing it noon and not after that 6 or 7?
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you, it's a little garbled.
So there was Keith repeated your recommended motion. Bill was asking whether there was a reason we're setting the show cause hearing for noon, and that is partially at the request of our solicitors so that they can be here in person.
We have a motion and a second on the floor, all those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, yes. Is there any public comment? Oh, boy. So
Oh, you want me to-
yeah, you don't do the microphone. Usually it's here, This mic was on was on that list, so. So if you press the button there, so the green light lights up. See that button there?
Well, it's
says-
kind of intermittent.
It says push.
Okay.
Green light is up.
Is
Perfect.
it?
Thank you. Thank you.
I actually have a question, maybe this is, if this is an appropriate space for this comment, but are you taking comments regarding the camping? Procedures for the Manistee Drive and shellfishing license
I'll do when we get to that.
later, and then,
But because, so generally the way it works
Mhm.
is that public comments for things that aren't on the agenda.
okay.
So do your thing that's not on the agenda, and then in several minutes, hopefully not too several, we will get to that matter, and then we would love to hear your comments.
Okay, my public comment that's not on the agenda, that needs to be kind of, well, my name's Taylor Gendron, I work on a conservation project over on Canton Road for the Plesky's family. And we're seeing a lot of buzz, of course, about ticks this year. But there seems to be kind of a lot of inundated companies who are providing tick sprays for properties. So we kind of wanted to talk to the town about, you know, if there's any regulation that's possible for that and some sort of. I mean, I would love to see a ban on broad spectrum sprays, and I think some of the advertising is not really indicative of how they actually work. So for the average homeowner, when they're seeing advertisements for botanical and all natural and organic sprays to protect their family, those still function the exact same way as like a foamifern or a DEET spray. So when we're broad spectrum spraying, even with organic botanical, it's doing the same thing, where any insect it lands on, it breaks down their outer exoskeleton and then just basically fries their nervous system to kill them. So I mean, that works on ticks, yes, but it also works on pollinators. It works on honeybees, the butterflies, moths, it kills everything indiscriminately. And aside from that, it's also not very effective. You know, these insects don't know to be in one yard or another. It's billed often as being plant safe, as being pet safe, and depending on your application. It's not always plant safe, and it tends to linger.
Well, Tyler, I knew you were a genius when you came on because I agree with you.
Yes.
So let's put this on.
So I'm
the future agenda.
putting that in the notes.
Thank
Not be back.
you. I received a promotion for that.
Taylor, what is your last name, please?
Jennifer, GENPRON.
Thank you.
Any other public comment tonight? All right, we have a consent agenda, approval of minutes and a couple of pieces of correspondence from Chris Florida. Molly.
I did want to make a comment about about the letter with the shellfish suggestion that we received. Not shellfish, but
Shell recycling.
shell recycling, formerly occupied by shellfish. That I wanted to say it's a great idea. But like any other great idea that involves a lot of volunteers, I think it would be best if he came to us with the volunteers and the funding in place, and then we can work with it. That's not an us project, that's a public, a project that comes to us and we approve. So terrific idea.
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda tonight. Oh, there's a second.
Like, one comment, yeah, it's really refreshing, these minutes come to us in timely fashion. And they're so professionally done, so.
Do you know that's been happening in the past?
So, thank you, Millie, and the whole staff.
All those in favor, they can go say aye. Opposed, and those of us have. We have board commission committees. I want to acknowledge this and as the resignation of Bill Padgett from the school building committee. My bet is, there are others who will remember exactly, but Bill Padgett served on the school committee for probably 20 years, maybe more. Really wonderful, and passionate, service to the community, you know, very sad to see him going off the school building. Next we have an appointment of a member to coastal resilience. And, one of the challenges with this, I have to say, is, we have a whole bunch of really great people that want to be on, this group. And my goodness, we have so many vacancies. Please don't take it personally if you don't get this. And more important, you can take it personally if you want to. But volunteer for something else. If anger has to be the thing that drives you to join another, I'm perfectly fine with that.
And to clarify, there's only one position,
One position.
and we have 5 people.
We have, Dana and. What else have we? You can, oh, I'm considering that list.
I have one comment, first of all, thanks to all of them. But when you submit, please submit a phone number. Because I'm not, I don't care if anyone who does, I call all the people, I try to call or tackle all the people. To acknowledge that I got the letter and to thank them for coming forward, so. Please include phone numbers.
Mark. I may have redacted that, in some cases, those numbers were included, and I've redacted them just to what didn't become a public document. So if you would, I mean, I'm happy to share those with
Well, just put in my 2 cents on these, when I look at, appointing something like coastal resilience that has an aspect of it that is, technical, you know. That requires kind of, that where subject matter experts would be valuable. I look at it in that one with a friend of mine, Phil Sawyer, who spent a, lifetime career in finance, and particularly in the public bond market. And how you finance projects like this and bring them to market. And he's been particularly focused on sustainable finance. And I think he's doing kind of.
Are you making that as a motion?
I wasn't, because I wanted to give everybody room. If no, I'll make a motion to replace that.
I'll second.
Any discussion, all those in favor of this saying aye?
Mhm.
I vote no, the ayes have it.
I will say, Keith, I think it's, I think we could choose great some of those spots, because I know, I'm not on the area, and some of these names like Dan Robinson and, you know, I think they have a lot to offer, hopefully they'll, don't be discouraged by this because, we have a lot of votes from them. And it's funny, it's the one board, I just, not have as many on some of the others.
It's a great group of people,
Yeah.
so we should encourage them to
That's in
join
case since we-
other committees.
Right, it's been a very popular appointment. And I think part of it is. They're actually trying to do stuff out of it. You know what I mean? I think that matters.
The passion, no question.
Yeah. We have a number of vacancies, as I said, the Commission on Motor Vehicles for Hire, Old Motor Task Force, Police Advisory. Sewer and Water. Board of Canvassers, have we had any applicants for canvas?
No.
I thought that would be a, you know, school building committee. And the ability to live in Senate. So please, please, we need you.
I mentioned last week that I would like to be on the Old Harbor Task Force and Police Advisory Commission, so if you want to put that on the next agenda, then we can cross those two.
So we need to do a resolution. I'm gonna send you the section of the, I'll text you the section of the chart. We need to have a resolution, and we need to come up with the specific reason and a specific duration. Because that's what the charter requires.
Is that because
He's on the council.
Yeah, this is remember we did that with Martha on HBC when they were doing.
You-
Harborside,
You could be the town representative on the Early Learning Center board
yes,
without a charter problem.
that's right.
I would do my best on those other two. I really done those other two. Says the lifelong bachelor.
And I have a motion to reopen the public hearing regarding Dairy Pollard's application to amend second.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Mr. Grigsby,
I'll keep this brief, Joseph Grigsby, representing Dale Pollard and the creator. This has been before you with the motion to remove game rooms that are prohibited use throughout the island and to allow them as a permitted use in the Old Harbor District only. They will be subject to the licensing requirements which you amended and adopted just 8 days ago. Your town planner issued a representative to the planning board that it was consistent with the comprehensive plan. You got a favorable advisory from the planning board from the adoption.
questions from the council?
There's nothing assured that none of these will be outdoor.
The licensing requirements who amended it to adopted a week ago, a little over a week ago, require that they be indoors. They will not
Mandates or require,
require,
they want to get into the semantics, I think, they want
they are
to.
only allowed indoors.
As a motion.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for the proposed amendments to the zoning zoning ordinance article 1, middle section 111. General prohibition for leaving a 15 game rooms, adding article 3, zone districts regulations, section 311, Old Harbor commercial zone, the permitted uses, adding
Second.
Is there any discussion? No, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
I.
Aye. Opposed, no, the chair votes no.
Thank you very much.
Did you voted no?
I voted aye.
Thank you.
I have a motion to adjourn. Second. Aye. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no, let's have it. We have a motion to reopen public hearing, oh no, we're not doing this, right? Is that correct? We're not doing this,
That's correct. So we're going to just ask that you take no action on this item.
so it remains open.
It,
I'm sorry to ask it. I'm just, I was curious about.
sure. Actually, Karen can certainly speak on this. I did speak with Nick earlier, and she suggested that we just take no action on this, but Karen, can you please, just give your guidance on that?
Yeah, you're not gonna be taking any action on this item. There are substantive changes that need to happen, or at least be considered by the planning board. So this matter is gonna go back to the planning board before it comes to you, again. So you're not taking any action on it tonight.
So will this require re-advertising if it's substantial?
It will.
Yeah, I'm assuming at this point that the changes will be such that re-advertising will be necessary, yes.
And we received a letter from Mr. Filippi, I believe, and was that forwarded also to Karen or the planning board? If it wasn't, could it be, just so it could be taken into consideration on this?
Assuming there was just the one letter from Mr. Flippy, we did receive that letter a while ago. The concerns were addressed already. The changes that we're talking about tonight are different from those changes and concerns.
And I don't know if the letter that we got, the email today is the old one, or if it's a
It
new
was a
one.
copy of the one that I
Okay.
actually sent to Karen, or he sent it to us,
Yeah,
online.
great.
If there's any question at all, resend it to me and I'll make sure.
Yeah.
Peter Friedrichs, the town planner. Mr. Phillips did come to the planning board meeting where this was initially reviewed and did speak on the same issues that he raised in the letter.
Because it lost me.
We're on number 8.
When the version, right, when the, that in my original question, you know, like, we don't need to postpone that to the date certain, we just need to continue to hold it open.
We're just not gonna take any action, it's just going to die a natural.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, it's different enough that we just need to,
Right.
we just need to hit the reset.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Right.
much. I was thinking procedurally around keeping it alive, but apparently, there were violent tendencies that they wanted to be crushed. All right, then, can I have a motion to,
This is, it's gonna be a similar, this is the motor vehicles for hire.
yeah,
We don't have a quorum. You now have 3 people who have a conflict at the table. So, you have an option to either let this one also kind of with taking no action, and then we can bring it back following the election. And
why don't we do that? I mean, I hate the idea of carrying. An ordinance. That is contradicts state law,
Right.
but as a practical matter.
Do we have to re-advertise it then?
we would have to re-advertise it. I mean, one option is to continue it until December meetings.
December meeting.
Sure, let me just look at dates on that, please.
Millie, I think it's important though that people understand, by doing this, all we're doing is, I believe, is cleaning up the language. So it mirrors what the state is.
Right.
There's no
Correct.
drastic change to, the current taxis themselves. It's more cleaning it up, so by waiting, I don't believe anyone is, harmed, but it's very sense.
Yeah, it's right for compliance with state law, and it would be removing the jurisdiction, which we don't have anyway, over taxis and charter buses. I mean, excuse me, not taxis, but limousines and charter buses. So I would recommend December 7th as our continuation date.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please.
Aye.
Voting no, yes. Item number 9, can I have a motion? Is this one okay now? Can I have a motion to open this public hearing? Second, all those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Vote no, there is none. Who's on for this? Peter, Karen?
I believe you have both of us.
Well, then I'll do that.
So we had talked about this at your last meeting. There was a workshop, you'll recall, where some concerns were raised about potential unintended consequences that was evaluated and determined that the language that exists in the ordinance would not create the issue of concern, which was something in the nature of allowing a use, a business operation to expand through some sort of a special use permit. After further review, it was determined that that is not possible under this ordinance. What this amendment seeks to do is to come into conformance with a fairly recent, now about almost a year old Supreme Court opinion now that came out on what to do when a non-conforming structure or use building wants to do something new, change, expand. And typically your policy has been in the past, as many municipalities have, they would allow that dimensional nonconformity to expand if you got a special use permit. And what has happened is that the Supreme Court in our state has come down and said, you can do that as long as your ordinance says you can do that. So that's what this amendment seeks to do, codify your current procedure and come into conformance with that Supreme Court decision.
Can you reconcile, thank you, Darren, can you reconcile, can you hear me then?
It sounds very garbled, but I'm getting every third word enough to kind of string it together.
Can you sorry, can you translate for me? Sure. I don't understand how, what we're saying, which is, these are for dimensional, variances, but not use variances, how that conforms with the line in B2 that says change in use, a non-conforming use may change form of authority unless they use variances.
Yes, so the mechanism by which the relief is obtained, meaning special use permit, use variance, that is all codified in case law. Some of it does not make sense, but that's what the courts have come down to have said in terms of what kind of relief you need and what you have to obtain to get it. So that's where you're seeing use variance or special use permit or use variance, dimensional variance sometimes is used. Those are the mechanisms by which you get the relief that you need. Specifically as to B2, that is a change in use, meaning you can't go from one prohibited use to a new prohibited use. The idea here is to bring everybody into conformance over time. So if you have a non-conforming use under B2 and you want to change it, the new use better be conforming, or you've got to get a use variance.
Well, that's kind of my point. I mean, I would rather not permit use variances. I get the measurement, I get the dimension.
Yeah, so
Really, that's what troubles me about this proposal.
so let's talk about that a little bit. So a use variance is a very difficult thing to get. And the reason why it is difficult is because one of the necessary findings of fact under state law is that there is zero other allowed use of the property, meaning without this permission to deviate from the ordinance through a use variance, the property owner would only be able to do nothing with their property. It would become useless. In my career, I've only gotten one, and I tell clients that ask me, I need a use variance to do this. The standard is so high. It's really reserved for those instances where a municipality has changed its ordinance such that unless they're given this special permission, there's nothing else they could do with the property. It would be vacant forever.
Right, and Stubborn Keith says that means it's a non-zero chance.
Well, it's a zero chance unless, in my opinion, it's a zero chance unless there is absolutely good cause, valid reason that for some reason the property at issue there'd be nothing else that you could do with this property at all if it had to abide by the zoning ordinance. They're very rare, very hard to get, and they really are reserved for those small circumstances where they are deserved.
Can you give an example of something like big?
A lighthouse changing to a residence
Yeah.
in the coastal zone.
Keep in mind too that anyone looks at a plat map, there are so many irregular, strange lots of the record. That this should certainly, but it's almost block specific or something like this. Because of all of those anomalies out here when you look at a plat map.
So as I say, my preference is to eliminate, use variance.
Just as a point of order, I think
Please.
Karen prepared a sub A for you to consider in advance of the public comment, and there's the 3 comments on there obviously wouldn't go into the final version, but the language is refined from what was advertised, I believe.
I'm not understanding.
So I think that's starting on page 5 of the packet.
Are you speaking of the language provided by you and Karen, the comment with, that includes the comments?
Right, that has some changes, tracked in blue from what was advertised. So that council would need to consider that as a substitute. And to the point of the chair about B2, that could be part of that motion.
Well, I actually did, I think the language has been re-advertised.
Oh, great.
To reflect all of your changes.
Okay, so just so everyone's on the same page, we're looking at starting at page 5, not page 1. Page 5 is the most up-to-date language.
But it should reflect the same, yes, they should be the same.
Yes, can you go through your concern? I'm trying.
Sure, but here's my basic concern. It's the same as the one we were discussing several weeks ago, and that is you have a use that the town has decided no longer should be permitted. We use rental cars as one of the examples. I do not want to be in a circumstance. I get the dimensional difference, but I don't want to be in a circumstance where we're leaving open the opportunity to expand a non-conforming use by this variance process. That's what we talked about last. That's exactly, it's the same thing we've been talking. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, we went through this last time, that wasn't added into it or taken out.
No, I think this is, unless Peter really can dissuade me, I actually think the packet that is on clerk base and the language that you advertised is consistent with the red line for these. So no, this is what we looked at last time, but sorry.
Right, and I think it's saying that, and last time we spoke, we raised that concern, we used an example of the tower.
Yeah.
We expanded from that.
Karen, can you hear enough to kind of get some clarification as to what happened with the use? With the prohibited use, I know that you are going to make some amendments to the original posted language to address the prohibited uses. And I think the council is questioning whether that is reflected on this new version.
The latest version should be under, if you look at sub 113A, there should be a sentence added at the end of that paragraph that starts a use established by variance or special use permit. Does your version have that?
Yes.
That is the latest version then.
So it does not address them.
Yeah, that's what.
I'm having a hard time understanding what the question is on whether it addresses or doesn't address something.
It's hard when you can only hear every second word. We're trying to determine, you understand where I'm coming from, right, Karen?
I do.
Where we're coming from. And I think there are at least some of us who would like to eliminate the possibility of a variance being granted to a non-conforming use. Not non-conforming dimensionally, but non-conforming use. And it's not clear to me that this does.
So, yes, so you're right. So what this does is the proposal in front of you allows somebody to have that at bat to ask for that permission.
So
If
what-
that's not something that you want, under the new case law, you would need to delete, for example, in B2, you would delete that underlying language that is being suggested for addition. You would delete unless a use variance is obtained. By deleting that, the sentence would just read, a non-conforming use can be changed only to a use which conforms to the zoning ordinance, period. There is no opportunity to ask for
That-
permission to depart.
That is the motion that I would make, to eliminate the phrase unless a use variance is obtained.
And that would be careful, we spoke.
Yes, correct, yes, that's all I need to say.
I don't know exactly. I thought we changed it after our last meeting, that was gonna be put in. But
Any discussion, Amy, you look like you want to say something.
I have a question after.
Oh, okay. After we move this, or would you like to talk about this today?
After you second, is there a second?
Yes.
So my question is, probably for Karen, but maybe Peter as well. If that were to be removed from B2, can you give a couple other examples of situations where use variance might be applicable and now would not be able to be granted? I think the lighthouse residence example is one we could wrap our brains around. Are there others similar that we can understand in this context?
Use variances are so rare. It would be something akin to. I can only think of it in broad terms. You've changed the ordinance so much that whatever the use was, there is nothing else that's going to be allowed there. Everything else would be prohibited.
I don't know if there's like a gas station that's doesn't meet current zoning. Maybe something along Old Harbor. And maybe, maybe they want to add like a propane filling station.
So it sounds like the consequence of making the amendment that the council's proposed are fairly remote. If these come up very rarely.
You do. They come up very rarely and they're extremely difficult to get. But if the intent is to close the door completely, removing that suggested language, that phrase, unless a use variance is obtained, removing that would close the door
Like,
under the case.
we would be getting folks coming in with zoning amendments like we've seen with Pollard and the land trust and the veterinary initiative. That would be their path to resolve the issue.
Sure. I'll okay with that. I think it makes it, I think it makes it, if it's that important and to the community, then there's a process. It might take a little longer, but there's a process.
So motions have been made and seconded to delete that phrase, concerning further discussion. Now, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those no, the ayes have.
I had a question on the dockside compliant. You know what? I don't know what dockside compliant is. I don't know.
I know about it. I'm certainly not.
Julia,
I'm just gonna repeat for clarity. Can you walk us through high level, what dark sky compliance would be?
so that basically is kind of what we've been looking at in the lighting ordinance proposal. So I would say that existing ordinance is striving towards that standard. It's a nonprofit that is recognizing that uplighting in the nighttime can have all sorts of effects, primarily inability to see stars, but also negative effects on flora and fauna and humans. And so the primary thing is that lighting be downlit as opposed to uplit. And so that if someone is applying for the special use permit, one of the requirements in the permitting authority reviewing that application is looking at lighting and making sure that the lighting is meeting those standards set forth by that nonprofit association of.
We already have a lighting ordinance that's in place.
Yes,
Would they have to follow the current lighting ordinance that's in place when they went for a special use permit?
they might be grandfathered in under the law prior to the adoption of the ordinance. There's a compliance timeframe on the law. I don't know how much that's being enforced.
Well, I don't think that's, that ordinance you're talking about, I don't think that was approved.
No, the one that's 15 years old, the version that's 15 years old. Or 20.
I'd like to see there be one lighting ordinance that we follow. Not have it split up.
So let me just chime in on that. So dark sky is a very widely accepted planning land use kind of standard for permitting any sort of development or construction projects that may have outdoor lighting. Your lighting ordinance will always still be effective and applicable regardless of whether someone gets a special use permit or not. So you don't need that here. The dark sky would be in addition to, and your lighting ordinance would continue to apply regardless of whether it's mentioned here or not.
So again, we have a lighting ordinance. With that, with the lighting ordinance we have, that's currently in place, whether we change it or it is as it stands now. Would that be more restrictive, less restrictive, or is it necessary to have it in this criteria? Unless we just do things that are outside.
Yeah. That's good, but well, I mean, to put a finer point on it, why is this here?
Why is 9A there?
Yeah.
9A is there at the request of the planning board. It's a pretty typical request for dark sky compliance when considering anything that could be conceived as non-conforming or potential nuisance, things like that, new development, things like that. Is it necessary? No, it's belts and suspenders. It's above and beyond your lighting ordinance.
So if someone comes with basically any special use permit, they have to be compliant with dark sky. This is not simply, is this simply for, by the way, there's a typo here, this is not confirming we have to farm. But is this, so a non-conforming structure that comes in for a special use permit would have to comply with dark sky when other applicants don't yet?
Correct.
Well, the distinction between new construction and an existing building. So if an existing building comes in, it's already non-conforming, it's been there forever, and they want to expand. The planning board saying, if you come in and you want a special use permit, you're a non-conforming building. You need this, and you need a special use permit. Yeah, you need to now comply with dark sky.
I understand, yeah, this one, but.
I don't see the need for this in. I think we have it covered in our ordinance. Am I missing something?
Three things.
I mean, we kind of proposed that this was because of what the state, because the ruling in the, was it the Superior Court, Supreme Court? And this was a part of that rule.
Well, yes, yeah, it was. It was because once you start to allow a pathway for a special use permit, then as soon as you do that, state law requires that you have specific and objective criteria to award or deny that special use permit. So these criteria under 9, and you've got A, B, C, D, and E, those are your specific and objective criteria, which are required by state law. You can change them, you can add to it, you can subtract to it, subtract from it, but you have to have some criteria in place so that when somebody comes before a board to get that special use permit, there are specific and objective criteria that the board evaluates.
Well, wouldn't our ordinance be specific criteria, a lighting ordinance that an outlet would like?
Didn't quite catch that. I think you're asking, is that a specific criteria? 9A, yes, 9A would be a specific and objective criteria that the applicant would have to meet.
That's not what I was asking, but I'm asking.
Sorry.
Yeah, Bill's question was, would our existing lighting ordinance be sufficient subjective or objective criteria?
I don't know, I'd have to read the ordinance, but it applies regardless. Again, the dark sky would be above and beyond. So if you want to go above and beyond, then you would keep 9A. If you're okay with your existing lighting ordinance, which is always going to be applicable, then you don't need to go above and beyond. You can take out A.
Yeah, I feel that we don't need A in here. I think we have an existing lighting ordinance that we're looking at doing some revamping to. We think it should apply to everything. I'd rather see us do it as a whole for all, as an ordinance throughout the whole town, and not having a piecemeal out.
Want to make that motion?
So I would make a motion to remove A, 9A.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, we get that saying on. We close in the movie, I think.
I'll follow that, as I think it's important, but I think it can be covered under the regular lighting.
Well,
I'm not against it.
honestly, I'm not against the dark sky lights either. I don't like. I personally don't like doing these things piecemeal as much as I was troubled by the comprehensive, and for a layperson, highly confusing. Lighting ordinance that we considered a few months ago. I think the way to do this is to say, we have a lighting ordinance and here's what it is. All right, so are there any other changes that people would like to suggest to this? If not, can I have a motion to approve this ordinance as amended, please? Well, second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those no, the ayes have. Thank you, Karen and Peter. That was very, very helpful.
Can you close the public hearing for me?
I'm going.
Of course you are.
I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing. I forgot.
Thank you.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, the ayes have. All right, now. We have fire alarms. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing on fire alarms? Moved. Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Amy, you're on.
Okay. So as most of you remember, we replaced the head end of the municipal fire alarm system about a year ago and have been transitioning subscribers to the new system. We'll be mandating transition, by the way, for all subscribers by the end of the year or sooner if the old system fails. So people will get any letters to that effect. The new system creates an opportunity to revisit the idea of nuisance alarms, which we've never successfully implemented. And the process set out in the existing ordinance is cumbersome, unclear, and doesn't really work for us. So you have a number of changes before you that are trying to accomplish three things. The first is to facilitate a clean process for reporting, appealing, and issuing fines for nuisance alarms. The second codifies changes related to the new head end, changes in language, descriptors of some of the equipment, and the actual process for applying and operating that system, the municipal fire alarm system. And the third major thing that it does is it removes sections that are no longer relevant, particularly related to residential properties, which do not connect to the municipal monitoring system, and not part of that municipal fire alarm system. So you have a number of different changes throughout the document, but those are the three things that we're trying to accomplish. At this point, this has had the input of the fire chief, the police chief, because of course dispatch plays a big role in this system. The alarm officer, the state fire marshal, the building department, who does a lot of the implementation for transitioning subscribers. So it's had a lot of input. I think everyone is comfortable with it, and probably most importantly, looking forward to implementing a system to deal with those nuisance alarms and really getting a process in place to administer that properly. I do have two very minor edits, and then I'll do some questions. That's okay. Under 573, promulgation of rules and regulations. 573. It says the town manager and the fire chief. We'd like that to say the town manager, the AHJ or authority having jurisdiction. For us right now, that is the state fire marshal's office. They are our AHJ. That may change in the future. But it would be the town manager, the authority having jurisdiction, and the fire chief may jointly issue rules and regulations. And they have that authority with us under the fire code. So we want to keep them in that process. Okay.
Really having jurisdiction.
Authority having jurisdiction, and those are capitalized. The second similar change is in 5-79D. Which reads, if a fire alarm system will remain out of service, then the town may require a fire watch for the premise. Under the fire code, it is the AHJ or the authority having jurisdiction that may require a fire watch for the premise. So we would change the town to the authority having jurisdiction.
That's not in 5 there, 7,000.
Oh, what you have in front of you doesn't include that, so you'll have to, which is fine.
Hold on.
If you go to the next set of the original one, see, I struck it from,
Okay.
so if you look at your red line. Yeah, do you have the red line original? This is the original red line, so that on the things line. Yeah.
So it's 5-79, states and these other ones. All of us is
So, I cut this from the, so I only kept E. But you said it's 579D.
579D, yes.
And
So you want the AHJ they require a power wash?
Yes.
Okay. So we
striking town?
AHJ from 5-79A and AHJ.
are we striking town?
5 in 5-73. Right?
Mhm.
As described, motion.
Yes.
Your second.
Second.
All those in favor, indicate by saying aye, but
This is the.
yeah.
Happy to take other questions if anyone has any, or,
I have a comment.
yeah.
I do too.
I'm sorry.
No, you go first.
I'm gonna advise, first of all, I think this is great, we're getting it cleaned up, so these are like, like, the advisory board, it used to have a member of the, I had talked with personal trainers also. It used to have a member of a business person in that also. What's the logic not to have that?
So that's an interesting question. I have no objection to adding a business person to the advisory board. But when you look at the full previous version of the ordinance, that board was constituted but had zero responsibility or action. So what we've done here is actually given the board something to do. And it just made more sense to convene a smaller group, but I'm happy to change it. So initially, we actually removed the board entirely because they didn't have any responsibility. And then I was uncomfortable with the town manager having sort of appeal capacity, that felt like it should belong to a board, so we brought the board back.
Yeah, my thing with the board is, I think that makes sense, and I like the way that you put it to the board, so it's not all just under one person. And I think for the majority, probably what the board does, that person probably isn't as much effective. I think on hearing appeals, they would have the perspective of, from the business side of it also. I was thinking more from the appeals, if there's someone that has objection to whatever, because the fines or whatever it might be from that edge, so.
My only other concern is this is a fire alarm business representative. That's a pretty small population at this point, and I do worry about conflicts.
So you're talking about.
It's a fire alarm business representative. Yep. At least that's the way it was written previously.
Oh, sorry, say that again?
So the way it was written previously, the fire alarm advisory board, the town manager, a member of the fire department, a member of the police department, and a fire alarm business representative. So a fire alarm business.
Yeah. I think that's, I was thinking more like, you have someone like Chris Reed or Brad.
Did Peter Green make that?
From that. I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I'm not even part of that. I was just wondering if you thought it was beneficial to have that perspective from that other side of someone.
It was more outweighed by the ability to respond in a timely manner and not have a lot of conflicts.
I had a question about, you said that, businesses are transferring currently. And is there a cost to them to transfer?
There is.
Okay.
And that depends on the business and the scale of their system. For some, it can be quite onerous. A large hotel has a lot of stations. There's also an upside to the business to having a well-operated, tested fire alarm system. But that's both ways.
I mean, I would imagine their insurance company would sort of insist that they transfer,
So
right?
we started transitioning people last June, so just over a year ago. We have limited capacity to facilitate that transition as well. So a number of businesses have been proactive in making that transition. Like I said, our goal is to have everyone transferred by the end of the year, but if that legacy system fails,
We're not supporting.
they will not be supported. So
So when you say limited capacity, are people gonna get shut out of this new system?
no, we have limited man hours because it does involve interaction.
Oh, so it has to
with
be,
our alarm
we don't wanna
clocks.
have a big rush at the end, we want people kind of pacing it, okay.
Yeah.
And what about businesses that don't connect to the fire alarm system? Where does,
That are required to or that are not required to.
who's required to?
It's generally commercial establishments, and that's gonna be laid out specifically in the state fire code. So we don't actually make that determination here. It's if you are required to connect, here are the rules and regulations around that. It's the state fire code that determines who needs to connect.
Okay, so that's not up to the town and the fire department, the volunteer fire department doesn't need to be making that call?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Bill, would you want to make a motion to add a business representative?
No, I defer over to, like I said, it was something I brought up for conversation. I think if you think it's beneficial, then great, I'm not, like I said, it was more of a.
I think we're also open to, this hasn't been an ordinance that is a working document. And we're trying to get it there, so I wouldn't be surprised if you saw it back in a year, 18 months, saying, okay, now we've implemented, here are the disconnects between how it actually behaves. And how it might be improved, so.
And I see the, I see it more that with, on appeals and getting the perspective from a business side to it, so I don't have any problem with it as presented, and we can, you know, we can always add it, correct, we can change it now, so, the other thing, a couple of quick things I had was, on 579, the fire alarm provider. Place for routine inspections, testing on more than one fire alarm on a given day, they must notify the police department 48 hours in advance of the location and plan the test. Is that, if someone comes out and they're doing, you know, they come from the mainland again and say, hey, listen, we can knock off 2 officers. Is it gonna restrict them from being able to do that?
In practice, no.
Okay.
And in practice, those providers who work on the island have generally a very strong relationship with both the fire department and dispatch in terms of communication. Because it's important to the success of everybody's business. So I don't believe it will hinder anyone. In fact, the language has already been there. You can only see where we're adding the words to the numbers. It just gives us that backstop. So that dispatch isn't overloaded at a time where they can't handle it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, as a courtesy, if they know they're coming out next month and they have 5, I'll let them know from that end of it. I just wouldn't want to hold it hard and fast that if something pops up from that end of it, so. That was something, and then there was one other, I'm trying to find it, and you had to say that if there was a fire alarm system. That is not tied in, I need to just, that the. We'll see, the first responder, let's see, one. Every time, but. And it was the portion I talked about, if you have an alarm that's not in the system. And they call the police station or fire station, they can't be the fire.
Yes.
So have a little. Or maybe you can just explain for us to understand it, so if an alarm company calls up and says. We have a report of a holdup at the bank.
Yeah.
But they can't do that. If that's a private, they say, so now with a business, for instance, I'll give you like, say, within the state. If a panic alarm's hit, the alarm company calls the police and the dispatch regular,
This is specific to fire.
okay?
Okay, so.
No,
But-
but I think. Okay. Okay, so if they call up, so if someone has a private alarm company in their house. And they get a call and says, hey, there's a fire at 15 Elm Street. The alarm company calls up because they got a notice. They call, say, hey, listen, they call the fire department. They're saying that they can't be called first.
They're saying, I believe the ordinance says the system cannot call dispatch first. So the automatically generated alarm for a non-serviced property cannot come directly into dispatch. It's not set up to
Okay,
receive.
so if I have a monitoring system and it calls, you know, Allied monitoring system, call goes into them, they get the call, they see it, they call the town, that's okay.
Exactly.
Perfect. So what you're saying is, I can't have a dialer set up that automatically just calls on the 40.
Right. Great. Yeah, great question.
Okay,
So it,
that wasn't clear when I heard on there, I was hoping that you got what I'm saying from that.
so it has to be a person or a dispatcher from that company, not an automatic dial from a machine.
So just this ordinance is specific to those monitored systems. So we're not talking about the whole universe of residential properties where you may have a company monitoring your alarm system. These are those that are required to be actively monitored by a municipal fire alarm monitoring system. It's a very narrow set of criteria. And so they dial directly in so that you may get a trouble call, you may get an active alarm. You know, there are gradients in the system of what kind of alarms are coming in and what status systems or parts of the systems are at. So it's a very nuanced type of monitoring that is well outside of a residential system, which cannot dial into our monitored fire alarm system. So, am I saying that? But they can, you can always call dispatch. to
You're
report.
just talking about the box that we have out there that takes in those direct calls from.
Exactly.
So we're not talking about if somebody has a private alarm system that monitors their alarm. And it goes along, says, hey, you call out, says there's a fire, they call dispatch, and then they may they call dispatch. That stays status quo as it is, that doesn't affect that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Cause that, it wasn't clear in here when you read it, it said third party not tied into the machine. So-
Yeah, well, because residential systems, and we've taken all this language out, used to
Yeah, sorry.
report out here directly in, and that is. We're several generations removed from that, so.
And then the one last one I had also, we talked about, the wet fire systems. Yeah, the troubles and. Yeah, well, kind of.
Yeah, 575 municipal fire alarm monitoring C.
Yeah. That was my Yeah, the question I had on this was for commercial premises, the only alarm that shall be monitored via the municipal monitoring system as follows: fire supervisory and for the premises where wet sprinkler systems. Water flow, low temp, so it can only be a low temp if it's a wet system, correct?
Correct.
So if there's a business that has, it's not a wet system, okay, because it gets activated only if. Because it's not charged, is that what that means, the wet system, so it's not charged. Can that room be on a low temp if it's a non-wet room? Would that make more sense in case, because if that went out. The low temp went out in that room, one that had a sprinkler system. Would it make sense for a low temp to be able to be allowed to be monitored on a sprinkler room only?
I cannot answer that.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, we did have the technical people make that change to the language, so I think they would have made the distinction if it were actively monitored.
I also have to, if you could go back and just have them make sure that. Because my concern was, that if there is if it's a non-wet meaning it's not charged, it gets charged if it goes off. Is there an importance to that room where that is, the low temp has an effect on from that area?
So actually, this happened this winter.
Right.
Um,
We want that.
So if your low temp room is not properly insulated and kept warm, it will charge.
Right, but by this. You can't, if you're not a wet system, if you're a dry system, you're not allowed to tie in with the low temp.
We can check on that.
Right.
I would say that's the kind of thing where we're gonna default in practice to what the right answer is.
Sure.
And change the ordinance if we need to. But I can't give you the right answer right now.
Yeah, all I'm saying is, I get what they're trying to do,
Yep.
but I think that the option that it could also, whether it's a wet or a dry. I'm not saying tie the building like you're monitoring. The low temp on an annex, but the low temp within that flow room would be important, because if that drops out, it would go off. So even if it was a dry system, but would a dry system go off at that froze? It was charged, yeah, it was charged in there. Anyways, if you could ask on that, I think that would be good, and that was the other question I had. And what, do we know what I know it's in separate section, but the fees are?
Off the top of my head, I believe it's a $350 annual monitoring fee, which we're waiving during the conversion here.
And is the fee, we went through this before, is the fee the same if I'm on the Harborside Inn or on the New Dory?
Yes.
Well, wasn't there a different scale at the time, but that all we had the house was.
That was before me.
Remember there was a business and residential, but all of these are business right?
Business or municipal, yeah.
Right, business owner as well. And then the fee for false alarms, small office,
Yeah, Millie can look it up, but
okay. And then the other thing I went through this is an appeal process on that, similar to like with the sewer, and I wasn't quite clear on. I mean, I can appeal a fine because I feel I was wrongly given a fine. But I also can appeal because there's some extenuating circumstances. I just hope the extenuating circumstances, I'll give you an example. The sewer company, sometimes I will have a leak in the plumbing, they weren't even aware of it. And a lot went through and it never happened before, and they'd be able to take consideration. When I read through this, it didn't look like, I may be misreading, it didn't look like the board had an ability. I would hope the board would have the ability with extenuating circumstances to, you know, take consideration into those also. I don't want to be so rigid that, oh, well, that's what it was and that's it.
yeah, I think just the opposite, there's not explicit criteria. And so we could get stuck the other way, but yeah.
That is,
Yeah, I just want to let the board have that latitude in case there are extenuating circumstances to what might happen.
And there's an escalating scale from $50 to $300 on the nuisances, depending on the number.
And I think what's important for the public to know that, as it stands right now, if we respond to a false alarm, there is a cost to the taxpayer because the taxpayer is doing a reimbursement of,
Some amount to the
Yeah.
fire department.
I think it's close to $100, depending on how many people respond. So there is a revenue thing, yes, so that's why the importance of being able to recoup it really is important. It's not meant to be so much a revenue generators to prevent those alarms and also.
Yeah, a behavior changing more than anything.
you know, when you within the budget, 35,000, right? So I look at this stuff. And see how much work we need to do on the ordinance, and I know what you and Chris and others have been doing, this is one of those basic things that makes everything safer, really, for sure. I know how much time it's taking, so thank you. All right, can I have a motion to approve this ordinance with the changes, that we passed a few minutes ago?
So move.
To the second. All those in favor to give us saying aye? Aye. Those no, yes, Taylor, are you ready? Are you ready for Ron is about to be here? We have item 11, can I have a motion to open public hearing regarding amendments to the New Sharon General Ordinance, licenses, business regulation, special events, so second. All those in favor, give us saying aye. Well, nobody is.
So I'll get us started with that,
Yeah,
okay?
that's great.
Do you have an extra copy of the supporting documents? Doesn't load on that phone.
This one's a show.
So the next two items, the first, which is special event, and the second is shellfishing, come out of a request of the Manisinian tribal community. We discussed with them in May. Their request around tribal social access, a tribal camping pilot program, and traditional fishing and shellfish options. So I did go off and work with Ms. Matthews, who represented the tribe, and we have two elements for consideration tonight, starting with the camping and taking 3 steps back on this. A reminder that tents for human habitation are prohibited by zoning. And the town has in the past allowed camping by scout groups. An example of that would be sleeping on the beach, which again is an allowable exception under our ordinance, which they traditionally do by camping. So it became time to create a holistic approach to deal with these two separate but related circumstances, so that they both weren't operating outside of the town's ordinance structure. And at our discussion in May, we talked about the importance of having this codified in the ordinances as a way to demonstrate to the general public why we may make an exception for camping for the tribal community or the scout community. And it's not necessarily applicable to the general public broadly. So having that written down in a way that everybody could see became important for us to be able to point to later on. So one of the ways that we came up to do that was through the special event license, which permits uses that are not typically allowed on a certain property. So in this case, we've proposed that special events be expanded to include an event involving camping as part of a historical or educational tradition. So that language is designed to create a somewhat small umbrella where we can facilitate camping events by the tribal community, also by the scouting community, which again, we've already sort of enabled at different points in time. So somebody looking at this on its surface wouldn't necessarily tie this back to the tribal request because it's designed to deal with this other situation that we've been enabling, and again, feels parallel. So that was our strategy for the campaign. Ms. Mathis obviously is not here tonight. I think it's fair to say that they would have hoped that this was maybe a broader brush, but I think it's a start for the town as a way to facilitate this program, still keep it within a framework that allows us to manage large public gatherings of people, which is always a safety consideration in both directions. So maybe not the perfect response, but a step forward and a way to bring this under a framework that's workable for everybody.
Okay.
Well, I was just gonna say, I have a question written this way. Would it become something that the clerk's office approves, or would it still come to council?
It would be an administrative approval because that's how special event licensors are written.
So my concern then is Boy Scouts. Would that still be confined to the Boy Scout campgrounds? Like we had a recent request from a troop that wanted to like camp elsewhere because that camping ground was full. So we're not gonna discover that we've approved Boy Scouts everywhere. Or, I mean, nothing against the Boy Scouts, but they're terrific in a confined area. Predictable.
So we have a separate section in our general ordinances, which is again, sleeping on the beach, which allows the first warden, the second warden, the chief of police to grant an exception to the prohibition of sleeping on the beach. And so that is typically the umbrella that we have used in the past to allow the scouts to camp on the beach. So that hasn't really, it's a bit of a over here and over there situation in the ordinances. They would still need that permission under that section if they were to sleep on the beach,
Okay.
if they were to camp on the beach.
So this will go, whether it be the Boy Scouts or whether it be whatever, it's administrative, so you're saying it wouldn't come to the council for approval?
It would not.
And what does it take administrative just for them to check off, meet certain boxes and it's a guarantee? Or is it?
That you have to meet the criteria. So the first most obvious criteria for this is demonstrating the historical and educational tradition. So it's not as though I could show up with just a party of people and say, I would like to apply for a special event license to host a family reunion where everybody's camping. That doesn't meet the criteria. I would expect to be denied in that case.
So who is the person that grants? Who does that review and grants that authorization?
I'm going to kick it over to Millie in a minute, but each department is involved in the review process of a special event license. So procedurally, it goes through the clerk's office, the town manager, the chief of police, the fire chief. Building.
Yeah, building, wastewater, it goes through all of the departments for sign off.
And about how many of those we have in yet?
10 at a max.
And at one time, it goes with the council, is that right?
Before the special event ordinance was created, yes, the council did this, what they called special exceptions. And that was probably 20 years ago.
So how are the bathroom facilities handled in these cases?
Wastewater has to sign off, so they assigns there are a certain number of portable toilets. If there is no public toilet.
That's an example of a question that's asked on the application. What is your expected population? And how do you intend to meet specific needs, traffic, parking, sanitary facilities, things like that, crowd control?
Aren't usually events like this, net beneficial to the town? They the Boy Scouts come out and spend all day cleaning the beach or some other positive outcome as a result of the class, usually.
That's a little subjective, and when they have asked permission, for example, to camp on the beach. And the town's permission is then granted, it generally does come with that requirement that a certain amount of service be performed in their stay.
That's how I remember.
So if this was on private property, you would ask us to let those, say I was going away, or
Yep.
whatever it might be. If I wanted to do it on town property, would that go before the council?
No, there's a provision for it, so.
I don't know that we've had something of that scale.
We have had. At one point, we were having Blues on the Beach do that, and the town manager's office was signing off.
Right.
Giving permission.
There are a couple examples of that happen now. This feels different to me than at least I would bring that type of request to the council.
My concern is that I know there's some exceptions of Boy Scouts have done, but which I think follows fine and good. I just, education will be subjective as to what we think it is, and I just want to make sure that we have enough check and balances that the department gets on, it meets it. And so therefore, whether it be Mansion Beach or State Beach or whatever, you have something open on that end of it. I don't know if it's a property owner, would apply for a special exception. I think it's going through town property, and just wonder if it would make sense that it goes before the council, as the council being the representatives for the town property.
Wait, would this apply to private property?
Yes, sort of almost by definition, it's a use that is not typical for that property. As well as volume, people and things like that.
Like a wedding,
Like a wedding in a residential area.
But we're specifically talking about camping, or we're talking about special use,
Special events in general.
special events in general?
That's the section of the code that we're talking under. Bill mentioned education, and so there's another example of a group that we have historically granted permission for beach camping, and that we do that with one of the schools in the spring, just about every year. So again, where that word came from is because we have this pattern of behavior that we've been allowing.
Okay, so you really stoked my anxiety when you used the term crowd control earlier. So, how much camping are we talking about that we need crowd control?
So that was specific to special events in general, not necessarily camping, but there is a threshold. There is a threshold for, under the state fire code, about when you need certified crowd control. I don't know if you know off your head.
Yeah, I believe it was 50, but.
And again, that's part of our typical application for a special event is.
So that would-
people, and do you meet that criteria? Do you have someone who's certified for that type of management?
That would be someone who took the certified crowd control class, okay. All right,
I understand the administrative, particularly when getting things like, I'm having a wedding on my property. You know, I missed the town council and for it to be mainstreamed, and then if you post for those, you have the bathroom, so forth. I think when it comes to town property. I think there should be a little more of a check and balance. I'm concerned about, well, we can't deny them because they hit all the check boxes. From that end of it, you know, if someone decided to say, hey, us on town beach, we got this educational group that does X, Y, and Z, and we. You know, obviously, the police department can't deny them unless there's cause, and we have all the Johnson from the baby. So,
On town properties, beaches specifically,
yeah,
we have this other section of the code that. Where you are not guaranteed an exception, it is an explicit exception. To be determined by the chief of police, the first warden, the second warden, so you need to request. An exception and have it be granted, it is not an automatic granting.
so we're gonna
So that's
the beaches.
Beaches, yeah,
Right, so what do we have left? So we have obviously like the Ball O'Brien property and other, whatever.
Heinz Field,
Heinz Field, but whatever it might be from there.
which have use policies.
I just wanna make sure we're covered, you know what I mean? And that the clerk's office and was on, I'm putting the position, we don't wanna give this out, but they. They fit within that box, so we don't discriminate if you don't, you know, that type of thing.
so if I said, oh, I want my Girl Scout troop to camp at Negus Park. That's,
You still need permission from the landowner,
okay,
that's separate from being granted a license for the use, for the event. I can't
okay, so
pull a
let's
special
say
event
I
license
am a
without
Girl
property
Scout.
permission.
Okay, so let's say I'm a Girl Scout troop leader and I have a summer home here.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna bring my troop from Connecticut up here to camp on my yard. I need this. But it's,
That would be. Yes, that would be an example where an application feels appropriate. Whether it gets granted or not, depends on exactly what the criteria. Whether all the criteria is met, but that is sounding like a valid application.
Molly wants to bring her Girl Scout to Negus Park, like she said.
You
What
need,
happens there?
it would be denied by the town. Because you don't have permission to use that space.
And permission would be through the town council. They could have asked.
It's usually.
I mean,
Then I answered my question, they can't automatically hit the box and do something that's not property. They have to have the permission of the town, and the town is not gonna be on the department heads to create that permission, we have to come back to the council.
We typically do stop it at the department head, town manager level, so whether it's the rec department. For Heinz Field or Ball O'Brien or the town manager's office for a more nebulous place like Negus Park. I don't know that it would ever get to the council. You may get an appeal of a denial. That's where I see the council coming in.
But my question to you is, it has to have permission from the landowner.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
And who is the person of the town that is considered the landowner?
The town
That is-
manager.
Town managers.
so prior to this, right, like as it exists right now. I'm a property owner, I wanna bring my Girl Scout troop out, it's my property. Can they pitch the tents now?
No. Tents for human habitation are prohibited under zoning.
Even on private property?
Give you the same sentence again. Tents
Okay.
for human habitation are prohibited under
Just
zoning.
checking.
If. Over 14.
Doesn't say that.
Exactly what it is.
I think this, having one of the criteria that the historical educational traditions and elements which was, you know, a lot of thought went into it, and I think it's narrow enough to align with. I think that's striking that balance is not easy, and I think, you know, even did sort of to that point. One of the One of the things that emerges from this, I hope we agree, is, a demonstration of the towns, the council's willingness to consider these things and continue to build a relationship. So, thank you for doing that.
That's certainly the effort.
Yeah.
You know, this was an example that got caught up in some
Yes.
other things. But the effort is there to find a path forward. And I guess I would say if it turns out in practice that we are getting a lot of applications that don't align with that intention, we come back and we say, okay, this loophole is too big, or it's letting a lot of noise come through that we're not really, that's creating a burden.
Right.
Then we bring it back.
Well, I think it's correct enough. And I'm comfortable with the fact that there's a check and balance with the town property.
Yes.
Taylor, don't allow you to miss it up.
Yeah, thanks for this, do I have to go over there again?
You do?
Alright. The light is already on. So I think what I would say is kind of in that line is that, when we look at Block Island as a whole, and again, I'm not a resident here, so I just work here year round. But we're really this incredible leader of conservation in the Northeast. So percentage wise, Block Island is, we're nearly 50% conserved land. We do a ton of stuff for, just the environment here. So I think this is really amazing, the town's willingness to write this in this way and start to build this relationship with the tribe is really at the forefront of where conservation is moving. Because we really are seeing that when lands are given back to tribes, when tribes are granted access to their ancestral homeland, the health of the entire environment improves. We can see some great examples with the Pokanoket tribe, who had gotten the 255 acres from Brown. And they are just working tirelessly at that property for invasive removal, for doing all kinds of remediation, for building the health of the water. So when we're talking about, the Boy Scouts coming out and doing beach cleaning, allowing this access to tribal members who also, like, for instance, at this meeting, it's very inaccessible if you don't live out here to be here at this time of night. So allowing this kind of portal for access is really incredible. And I think it's really going to be noticed throughout Rhode Island and throughout New England where these movements are happening. And it is really open win situation. So we're super happy to see that.
Thank you.
Effect.
Thank you very much. Very much for the I will from you. Thank. All is like, what was the date that you did this thing? I. John, you're gonna send it. On the shellfishing, actually, when motion to close that.
Second.
It's amazing, Melody's flags are so long. They just take me in shit. All those in favor, we gave us say aye. Votes no, yes, can I have a motion to open public hearing of final one, that's second. All those in favor, give us say aye. Aye. Amy.
I will say this one is less, it's more straightforward. So, so the request here was to create some consideration for access to fishing and shellfishing. We pretty quickly agreed that fishing is regulated by DEM. That's outside of our purview, but shellfishing we do regulate locally. And so the approach that's being proposed here is the creation of a Manistee tribal license as a category of license that can be secured with a valid tribal identification. And then a Manistee tribal license is subject to all the same restrictions and ordinances of all the other licenses of the town in terms of seasonality, takes, non-commercial use, those kinds of things. So we're still having those boundaries of healthy shellfish taking, but the fees are waived and it's specifically reserved for tribal members.
Amy, how many members are there? Do you know?
I do not have that off the top of my head.
75.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Amy, would this be similar to like the golden license, just another category?
Yes, exactly. And so the amendments include adjustments to the tables to add those to the lists.
And so the fee would be the same as the taxpayer resident?
No, the fee would
Fee is
be waived.
Okay.
And so that is in section A13. The license must be renewed annually and the fee for this license shall be waived.
Yep.
And is there any reason, I know the golden license was like $1 or something, is there any reason for that? Was that something we had to charge something because X, Y, and Z? Or is that just something they came up with?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I would say if it was, we should follow that, but
Yeah.
if it isn't, I'm fine with it, but.
And obviously the solicitor have been through this and didn't flag that,
Okay.
so. I think being explicit in the language is important, meaning we are being very clear that it's waived is what needs to be there.
Or I mean, it could be $1 also,
It could be.
but I think that's fine. I just want to make sure we weren't giving up something, because I think, why did they come up with $1 and just leave it on 65, so. That's fine.
Do you think Millie has one procedural clarification, unless anyone has other questions?
Great. As I mentioned to the council earlier, tonight, the item that was advertised was based on an ordinance language prior to an amendment. So the language is out there. There was just a couple of changes in the table. Spoke with the solicitor. The solicitor was very comfortable with what was advertised, just being kind of a Scrivener's, considered a Scrivener's error, because there was no change to the language of the new language of what was advertised. Not making sense. I'm sorry. I did better earlier. So I don't think I think we're just considering that a typo, but we might need the for the oysters and the scallops. What do you think about the?
That's your call.
Okay, I think that we're just going to consider that a typo. So I think we're fine.
Are there any questions? Yes. Can I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
Second.
All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those voting ayes have it. Item 13 is precedent on approval of the game license application to apply to.
Did you close that public hearing?
Oh, yes, and we'll all oppose the public hearing. Second. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Joe.
This is Gary's application for a license for 30 games in the Empire Theater under the movie active license ordinance and it was the zone change. You recognized a couple of years ago that Gary made a bad decision and brought games over, but he shouldn't have. We can hear many people were this correctly, so that was that one thing made again, we apologize for that. We will operate consistent with the laws.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions? Any questions like this?
Joe, is there a hardship on the applicant isn't here tonight?
Yes, sir. He's recovered from his surgery.
Me too.
I suspect
That was a joke. I mean. Joke guy.
No, because I've always maintained that the applicant currently this should be in something.
that's what he did say, people who will be partnering with him on it.
I have a motion to approve the game license. For a second. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. I'm on that.
Thank you very much.
We got any financial reports tonight, or do we?
They're here. I'm happy to take any questions. I don't know that I can answer them, but I can take them.
Yes, and thank you so much.
And, you know, I would also say these are June 30th financials, which are very, very preliminary. Because we continue for 60 to 90 days to make closing entries to June 30th, so. But I'm happy to do my best.
No, I didn't have any questions.
No, now, is anything out of this?
Nothing newly unusual. And at our last meeting, we did over expenditures and under expenditures, so those are all fairly consistent.
I would expect. Everything, what's actually the work that you're trying to 27 roadway improvements, versus scope of Ocean State site from all.
Let's do that. Again, part of a previously approved grant application under the Road Restore Program. This is our 2026 project, 2027. And this is the first roughly 1,000 feet of Grace's Cove. So it all fits within the budget that we've identified, which is always helpful. And 1/3 of this funding is state funded.
33%. Of state.
Yeah.
And 1,000 feet, basically, what is that kind of?
It brings you just to the
That's
split.
a good question. I'm terrible.
It's basically right to the split to go off to the pit.
And this is going to be, not pavement, it's a crushed asphalt.
Yeah, sort of the milled, recycled asphalt.
Yeah, the non-paved portion.
How did you manage to get the worst section of road in front of your house?
It's one of the many, yeah.
It's so work in the grant proposal when you said roughly 1,000 feet.
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
The scope of work, is it 1,000 or not 1,000?
Yeah.
And then I guess in addition with that, on the driveways, the private lane when it's I think there are 6. How far are you going in? I don't know, and are they all the same?
I don't have that question, but I can get it for you.
The other one was. The width of the road, is there a standard on?
I'll get those back to you. Yeah, and if you want to hold the award, you can do that, but. I just didn't bring
What
it.
does that do to us?
I don't.
So Kristen, did they do apron, so maybe Keith would know the answer, did they do aprons of
They-
driveways?
They did, I would say
Oh, really?
8 to 10 feet on my driveway.
Which makes sense, right, for them right on.
Yeah, because, so what happens? Well, what happened on Beacon Hill, I can't say what happens, you know, but what happened on Beacon Hill, for a lot of the, people who are there is. The road bed, of course, ends up being built up. So there's a drop. From the road into your driveway. And what that creates is a situation where I come out in my pickup truck every day. And eventually it wears out because you're kind of going uphill there. So they put some recycled asphalt, maybe 8 to 10 feet is long, maybe it's 6, but basically. Any impact of my truck. Or Susan's car is not impacting the road itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense.
The aprons will be the same as the surface, right? It's not pavement, it's crushed.
Correct.
Yeah, like on Old Town Road, they did for asphalt, so it was like.
So.
Right, when you can't have everybody dragging the rocks out into the road and ruining it right away.
Right, I think it really has to do with. The weight of the truck right on the edge of the road, so it kind of collapses.
Right.
So, Amy, is this a problem if we wait until our next meeting to approve this?
No, seeing if I can get the bid specs up quickly, but I don't think I can.
We'll just go over. Do you think this really boring?
Sure. Um. So there's a lot of good stuff in here, but I think the important things are really front loaded. I want to make sure the council and the public are paying attention to the comp plan schedule. So they had their first introductory meeting with the planning board and have now set a special monthly meeting to work on the comp plan. The dates for the rest of the year are outlined there. I would encourage everyone to participate. This is a really important document that actually does get used, and so it sets that future vision of the town. There will also be public engagement sessions. The website and survey are likely launching the beginning of next week. We'll make sure that the public and the council have access to all that, but if you don't come to the meetings and if you don't engage, your voices will not be heard, so.
Can you just expand a little bit what the comp plan actually is? Just tell me,
And
is it a guide, is it?
it is a guide. It is meant to reflect and guide the principles and policies and future visioning of the town, so it takes that community temperature, if you will, to refine the forward-looking desires and visions of the town and creates implementation strategies for specific tasks. So it's both a visioning document and a roadmap, if you will, for how we would plan out the next 10 years. So that's a really layperson's interpretation. Karen has popped in if she wants to give.
It's actually, no, it's actually really worth taking a look at. It is a lot of work. You'll find that, as I think every single person who looks at it finds something that they disagree with, something that they agree with, you know what I mean?
Oh, and it involves.
But it's really quite impressive piece of work, that's.
And as you look back on the 2016 plan, you can see how many of those things we actually
Yeah.
did, which is also.
Yeah, that was,
exciting.
they're like a whitewash as to here's what the plan was, this is how it hit the mark or didn't hit the mark.
Yeah, we, as part of that process, throughout the 10-year period, they're sort of good for 10 years, if you will. There are check-ins and required reporting on the implementation standards. Karen, is there anything you would add to that at a very high level?
Yeah, I agree with everything. From a legal standpoint, it's an extremely important document in the land use world because there are several decisions that get made by planning and zoning where they have to evaluate whether the application is in fact consistent with the comprehensive plan. So we are constantly looking to the comprehensive plan to see what is intended for the future of the municipality of the town of New Shoreham. So it's very important in that respect. So if you do get an application for a project or a building or a new use or something like that, it's the reference guide. And that is what drives a lot of the decision making at the board levels.
And do they break it down in sections on these as far as they're gonna do,
Housing or
Yeah.
conservation or, yeah.
Yeah, but it will be an and both kind of situation where they will specialize in a certain area. And it also creates that high level perspective that needs to flow throughout the document. So
Do we have extra copies of full Hudson?
I don't believe we have printed copies. It's online and we could probably make them if certain councilors wanted them.
It just seems like it would make sense, and I'm thinking like we have an election in November. Getting a copy of the comp plan seems to be a real worthwhile thing. 'Cause it's thought provoking too, because it includes. Things. That you look at and say, well, of course, that's in there, but it's not something that people get out of the feedback.
That's something with probably quite a few things in there that people may not agree with.
Yeah, right.
People should probably read it.
Yeah.
can, really the same paper, at least for me, electronic,
Yeah, certainly. I'll send you a link to it.
that'd be great.
Okay to move on?
Sure.
We do have DOT coming out for a meeting about the garage on the 27th, so that feels like a milestone. And they're supposed to be bringing a plan of action and a tentative schedule, so.
On that issue, the previous town manager did not want council members to be a part of those discussions.
Yeah.
Maybe
I would say that is a staff level meeting. I don't think it's the right forum, doesn't mean there won't be a forum for the council to engage, but this is really a staff level meeting.
Really sort of talking about the nuts and bolts and build.
Yes,
And I think that if you need our, from our input, that will come down.
yes,
Along with them. It sounds like you're making some headway. You feel that?
I do. Like I said, you know, we'll see what they bring to the table for that discussion, but I do think we're making progress.
this DOT gets my throw up, because if we're not interacting with them as council members, a lot of things happen that probably shouldn't happen out. Let me give an example. Our roads are a mess. I don't wanna see 1 square inch of asphalt to go down unless we consider widening our roads at the same time. Now, what's our opportunity, or what's my opportunity to make that known to the people at DOT?
There's an opportunity for you to make that known to the staff here in the town, and we convey that message back. Particularly on the road side of this conversation, which is a different path than the building, we're working on 2 parallel paths. The town will be managing the construction process around the roads, and so those become bids that the town council will need to be awarding. Similar to the awards of the engineers, where it required concurrent DOT and town council approval to issue those contracts for the engineers. You'll see that same process play out for construction of any roadway improvements. So that's something that will continually come through the council. I think the other members will also let you know that discussions about DOT in general and our work plan have been pretty frequent. Almost every meeting we talk about DOT in one form or another. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for council priorities and feedback in this conversation. One of the other hot topics almost every meeting is the non-owner occupied property tax. I don't want to get too far afield, except that we have been having very direct conversations with the director of the Division of Taxation. We did finally get them to eliminate about 127 properties based on our homestead exemption. Those people will not get bills. Those are being mailed out this week. So if you do receive a bill and you do believe that you should be exempt from the non-owner occupied property tax, you must reach out to taxation and have a conversation with them about the documentation that you need to provide. This is not something the town can step in on an individual basis. We're continuing to lobby for how they look at Block Island's tax rolls to match data. But we may have reached the limit of that for this billing cycle.
I think, I'm glad you're looking into that, and I know our representatives.
Tina has been very aggressive on this.
That also, I think it's really unfortunate, besides the fact, we know how we feel about the tax. But because, and I think you pointed out, Amy, because our PO boxes and our street addresses don't match, the lazy way went out, and people like David Lewis receive these bills when it's clearly their taxes are filed, there's a license here and so forth. I think that's really unfortunate because, you know, it's taxation, you know, it gets everyone a little bit, you know, a little angst. And you have to, the onus on you to prove what you already do, seems really unfair from that etiquette. So I'm glad that you've been able to eliminate some of that. I mean, while it's not a responsibility, I'm glad that you've been able to at least make some headway.
Yeah, we can agree we don't like the tax. We can agree it's an unfair process. And we really need people who believe they are exempt to not ignore it, but to reach out to taxation.
Right.
That's the message.
So was the homestead exemption added as an acceptable form of?
They have not amended their regulations yet. It is likely something we will continue to push for, a recognized criteria, but that is not what happened in this instance. It's
So they
not-
just used it to apply like a filter on their system to, as they should have in the beginning.
Yes.
Because that is why people, but that's a known fact upstate that our postal addresses and our actual addresses don't match. It was super lazy on their part. And I'm glad that Tina's on it. She's really been very responsive, but it's kind of unacceptable. I mean, I don't know if anybody, I got a bill. I'm sure all of you got bills.
You're on the town council. Your license and everything's there, the onus should be on you to have to go there. However, one thing we can be as frustrated as we want, I think the message is really clear, we tell us that you did get a letter. You need to respond, because otherwise it's only gonna compound that
Right.
end of it.
Good progress on a lot of other fronts. One that we haven't talked about too much recently has been that expansion of the homestead to rental properties. Just know we've had a lot of good meetings on that, and that's continuing to work its way through targeting an implementation for the next budget year.
It's working to drive that. It's really.
It was a neat conversation, and they're gonna put together a little white paper. This is at no cost to the town, but there aren't many people that you can talk about tax policy with. So they had some great ideas and some examples that I think look at more closely.
That's great.
And then, Amy, back on, I know we don't want to get deep, but I had mentioned to Keith before, and maybe we can put this on our agenda to have, we were talking about the 513s and the exemption from, and so maybe we can put that on an agenda that our attorneys can look into that, because that could be a win-win.
It's still, I would say it's a little premature. Again,
Okay.
it's something we're actively working on with taxation and trying to get the 513 section of our ordinance recognized globally by taxation, so that we can go out and say to people, if you have a 513 under this ordinance, that is an allowable exemption to the non-owner occupied property tax, and really leverage that as in this moment in time to increase year-round housing, relieve people from some tax burden, and address a poor situation with some good solutions. So I wouldn't.
Do we need to get a written opinion from them? Because they gave an example, if I had a common Providence and I rented out one unit and the other two were empty, the property was exempt on that end of it. So I guess.
We just want a more solid interpretation,
Right.
before we are backing that, but and telling people that this will be an exception. So we're still working on that. I would give us a little more time.
Sure.
Before it comes up on an agenda, so that we can hopefully bring some more clear answers.
Yeah, because I think it's a really good path for us to explore. So,
Definitely. From Harbors, you have some reviews of the 4th. Human Services is really focused on sort of supporting everybody through the summer, the volume of people out here, the volume of need in terms of additional services is feeling pretty intense at the moment. Recreation, obviously very busy with programs. I wanted to sort of point out Dave's second bullet there. Camp Block Island is always strong. Soccer camp, a great tradition, 29 kids. First year drama camp, 30 kids. To have that kind of volume for a first year
Are they
program.
gonna do a performance?
They did a performance
Oh,
on the last day of camp, which was amazing. So just wanted to recognize all the effort that went into that. It was really well
That's certainly
attended.
really glad to hear.
Yeah. So
What did they use as a facility?
I don't know where they met during camp. The performance was at Town Beach,
Oh, cool.
on the pavilion and.
Did I just miss that? Oh.
I don't know that they specifically announced it.
So you can't see that too. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's really great.
But that was really great. As always, lots going on at the library. And in land use, continuing to work on zoning amendments, which I have not listed here, then provided, I decided you guys might also have amendments. Short-term rental registrations will start again in September for those who are anxious for those to go out. And some upcoming meetings, Old Harbor Task Force, zoning, HTC, conservation and planning.
Amy, can I ask you and Lori, since they're put together on something? That this report is so comprehensive and is indicative of the kind of work that is being done. One of my shortcomings is I don't think about what I did last week. I'm thinking about what we need to do next. And I get a lot of questions that frankly drive me mad, because it's about something that we've been working on for 6 months. And no one has been paying attention to it. And I would love if you would put your heads together around, I don't know. Do we take this and, take 5 of the bullets and run it at them and block out times? Or do we, I don't know what that looks like. I have no preconceived notions. But I think, quite frankly, we sell ourselves short and you sell yourself short. Because there's a lot going on that people are not aware of. We know it because we're here, voting on stuff and, shaping things. You're working on this every day, Bill is working on this every day, and we've got to get better at that.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
there's some kind of what the ones did.
Yes.
we can definitely think more about it. I think we know that
Yes.
it's one of our biggest weaknesses.
And it's really- But you also don't need to add another box that
But it's maybe a different
It's on
way.
your
Yes,
face, and
I
it'd be
know,
nice if the
right.
Black Island Times picked it up.
But we'll try to think of other.
Yeah,
strategies.
yeah.
The land use, there's a Chapel Street, what is that, violence? The problem.
That the
The land use.
the parking on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I believe it was inappropriate parking arrangements. Loosely,
What is this on?
with the notice of violation for the property on Chapel Street was.
Is that at the church? Or the-
No, we can get a copy of the violation to the council.
Questions for me?
That's all public information, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
I have a question about it says short-term rental registrations will start again. Is that because that's all in the computer system, is that easier for the applicants and the staff as time goes on, or is it still monstrous?
It is getting easier. I think even year 2 was a little bit of a learning curve in how to move data from one year to the
Sure.
next, but I do think as we learn both short-term rentals and OpenGov together, it does get easier every year. Certainly the septic part of that was a really heavy lift in the first
Right, I
year.
remember that.
And
yeah.
now that file, they're figuring out how to transfer forward. So I think it's getting better.
Okay,
And the semi, the bricks, is that the new buildings, the X porches, everything, or is that for the month or the year?
I believe that was for the year, but I will double check.
Okay,
Um,
I'm just kind of curious, without putting a lot happening into it, how that's kind of lining up, but are we on, compared to these coming, new permits go up or down, that type.
I'm finding it's easy, so.
Yeah,
yeah, and that specific is to the zoning
that was it.
review of the building permits. That's not the total
So-
permits.
So what does that mean when it's for the zone? Does that mean if they're asking for special exception or?
Whether there's a major zoning element. So if you're replacing windows.
Yeah.
Requires a building permit. Generally is a pretty quick checkbox from a zoning perspective. You don't have any major changes to the footprint, things like that. That's very different than a tear down rebuild. Building permit, same number of permits, but a very different volume of work from a zoning perspective.
So this 78, you're saying that that's only one category? of
I think
those?
this is where you have the more voluminous zoning level review.
Gotcha.
Um,
Not the guy that does the deck that doesn't have any,
right,
meets all the things, goes into the.
It's a relatively small subset,
Right.
because like, even marketing building. Didn't go through some.
So that would be part of the set, right?
Right.
I've got a building permit, all that,
Right.
Had a bunch of stuff that it just.
It was just, I don't want to, I'm just curious when I saw the numbers.
because our building permit numbers in a year are usually between 300 and 400, I believe, total for the year.
Wow. And it's for future journalists.
I was just gonna put in one, like it's scientific, come on, we have something on the books now, right? Or like roundup, I can't think of anything now.
We do, and so I was gonna dig into that a little bit before we brought it back on the agenda.
Oh, that and then it's fun related, we'll circle back to the. Cutting view shed, because we have view shed or just the tree work.
We do not have specific regulations about view sheds in general. We do relative to the town property part of that conversation, which is a little different. That we have not lost track of. It's still-
So did you leave it that we would look to do a little more exploring on the spraying for ticks and stuff like that, Richard, because it's certainly something. Everyone's gonna be,
And one good wells. Yeah. I mean, when I think about these tick spraying. Thing, when I read about tick spraying. All I can remember, you guys may remember, it, but, Connecticut had a West Nile issue, probably 25 to 30 years ago. They sprayed only in their ponds. Lots of them. Yeah, the shell, there were no lobsters left in the islands. So when I see that, I just get, it's interesting Taylor was here tonight to raise it because there was an announcement somewhere on the bulletin board or something like that of a landscaping company that is now doing tick spraying. And I was kind of like, geez, that worries me. Partly keeps the chemical part. Okay, I didn't know that.
I think Mark, like, this, so, this brings back Fred Nelson. Yeah, right. Fred Nelson.
You know, Maud Chassie sets up a booth at the library every other week about, for the, extension. You know, with she does soil testing and things like this, but we did have a discussion, I had a discussion with her about this.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, she said the same thing you did, which is obvious, right? But in our fear of ticks, we could miss the obvious, which is if we spray our yards to kill the ticks, we're also gonna kill, you know, the fireflies and the butterflies and the bees and the ladybugs and the caterpillars and the whole rest of it. And probably the peepers.
I'll tell you, a few people getting that out, that they're gonna be doing it, so I think the education is, maybe there is something that is appropriate, so I think it's good to talk about.
And also, you do need a very specific pesticide license to apply those, and most landscaping companies don't actually have that. I don't know if the ones that are, because it's the same in Connecticut and Rhode Island. And some companies do kind of get around that by saying like they're not completely spraying, but even botanical sprays need a pest management license first. They're probably gonna
So we should-
send to the conservation commission for advisory?
I think that's one of the things the council would consider when you discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been.